I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Round Bar Review, and joining me right now is Jamal Murphy. We follow each other on Twitter. We met one time a few years ago, but we're going to talk basketball right now. Jamal, man, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. Great to catch up with you again.
My pleasure. So you are a sports writer. You wear many hats, but you're also an attorney.
Right.
So how does all this fit, brother?
You got to make it fit, man. I still do a little of everything. But basketball and sports in general is the passion. So that's what I have most fun with, covering sports, writing about them, and hopefully I'll do more and more as we move on in the future here.
And you're one of your nicknames, monikers is the Blacketologist.
Right.
So how serious about you with that? Because, bracketology is not really, it's a majority Caucasian
right.
endeavor. So just how did you come about working on that?
Well, I've always, like I said, I've always been a sports fanatic. College basketball was one of my first loves, growing up. And, so I'm kind of like a college basketball nerd, right? So I get really excited. I used to get really excited about Selection Sunday and of course March Madness. So I started getting into trying to predict who would be in the tournament. So of course that's bracketology.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started doing it, I was like, I don't think there's any other black people doing this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At least I can't see them.
Right.
I don't see any. I see like 100 white guys and that's about it. But, so I was like, it kind of fit. I don't know if I gave it to myself or someone suggested it. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but just started calling myself the Blacketologist on Twitter. And, so that's the background, but then it's taken on so many other kind of meanings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How long have you been doing that part of being a college sports nerd?
Oh man, like, it has to be about over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure.
How do you keep track of how accurate you are each year?
Yeah, well, there's a website.
Okay.
I think the Matrix. I think the Bracketology Matrix. So I'm on there. I've had, I forget where I am now. I started off doing pretty well, and then people don't know bracketology is very extensive. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of time. So the last couple of years, I haven't been able to put as much time into it, but I still try to pull it all in at the end, and try to make those predictions. I'm in the process of it now since we're getting close to March. But yeah, I'm on the bracket matrix. I usually do pretty well.
Okay. Well, let's take a large scale view of college hoops this season. First, I guess, get the kind of negative out of the way. Any team disappoint you so far?
Oh wow. Well, one team that's been in the news because of Juwan Howard.
You're going there, okay?
I'm just gonna take it there. I mean, before all that happened, I think Michigan was a disappointment. Maybe, if you knew the team and you knew he had a lot of turnover coming into the year, so it wasn't the exact same team as last year, so people kind of knew he was going to have to start somewhat over, even though he had a couple of holdovers. But I still think people thought that Michigan would be a lot better than they were this year. I think a lot of it has to do with, like I said, the new guys. He had a couple big time freshmen that took some time to get their act together. And then, the Big Ten is just so tough this year,
right.
that made it hard for Michigan too. But they actually have recently started coming into their own, and we'll see what happens now. With the whole Juwan Howard incident and not having him for the remainder of the regular season. I think the next 5 games, we'll see how they respond, because I think, they were starting to turn it on, like I said, and they are kind of they're in that bubble conversation right now. So these next 5 games are critical.
Well, let's talk about the incident. Were you surprised that Coach Greg Gard did not get suspended for at least a game?
Well, I'm not surprised that they didn't suspend him for whatever reason. I'm not. It doesn't surprise me, but I think they could have given him a game or something like that because, whether he did it intentionally or not, he kind of and I don't think he intentionally knew how the whole situation would play out, but he did, even if it's unwittingly, he instigated it
right
by making contact with Howard, by kind of not letting him just go past the handshake line. If a guy doesn't want to talk to you, that's fine. Just let him go. You don't have to grab him and stop him. And I think that's what created the whole melee. I think Howard deserves most of the blame in this situation because he took, I don't know if it was a fist, I think it was an open hand or whatever, but he did swing
right
at another coach, which is obviously inappropriate, especially from a coach. So I think that the suspension for him is fine. I think it's fair. I think the 4 or 5 games of the regular season remaining, I think it's okay. I wasn't with all that stuff, people trying to jump on him and talk about he should be fired and
Agreed.
he should never coach again. I think that's people who probably had an axe to grind with him, previously for whatever reason.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, I think his punishment is fine, and I think Gard could have, probably should have got a game, because he played a part in it. But I'm not surprised that they just, gave him a little slap on the wrist.
Fair enough. I'm with you on that. One game, I think suspension for Greg Gard have been okay in my book. But let's just talk on court action. Since Michigan has been a disappointing team this year, has anybody surprised you with how well they've done?
Yeah, but in a bunch of teams, but the one that's most interesting to me and is good to see for me is Marquette, because they were, they're in the Big East, and I'm from Big East country. I'm from New York. I grew up on the Big East, so I follow the Big East very closely. Marquette was supposed to be, they were preseason ranked 9, I think, in the Big East. Not supposed to be anywhere near the NCAA tournament. Of course, we know Shaka Smart took over there from Texas. Shaka Smart, went to the Final Four with VCU. Then he goes to Texas. A lot, people will say he underperformed at Texas, but they were always right there in the mix. They just had a few bad losses, including last year when they were upset in the tournament after winning the Big 12 championship. So he gets out of there because the pressure was going to be ridiculous because he seemed to be on the hot seat for the last couple of years. So he goes to Marquette. He's from Wisconsin. So he kind of goes home to coach Marquette. Nothing's expected of Marquette. He brings in a pretty good recruiting class of good underrated freshmen, and now lo and behold, they're one of the best teams in the Big East. They're a lock for the NCAA tournament, and they're a tough out. They might be the most talented team in the Big East, even though they're young. So they're going to be very scary in the next couple of years, and we know Shaka Smart can recruit, so he's just going to be able to add talents to that mix. So to me, them being a top 25 caliber team coming out of nowhere, and with Shaka Smart kind of, turning back the naysayers who tried to question his coaching ability at Texas. To me, this Marquette is the biggest surprise, and it's the most gratifying surprise.
Let me ask you this question because I'm kind of curious where you lean toward this. Do you like conference tournaments?
I do. I'm all for excitement, more basketball. You give me basketball to watch, it sounds good to me, and it's a very high level. I don't have a problem with the conference tournaments, and I don't really have a problem with, the automatic bid that comes with the conference tournaments. Okay. Even though I know it may take away from the regular season, and the regular season is very important. Maybe they should, especially for the lower conferences, maybe, the automatic bid should come from the regular season champ, but then that takes away from the excitement, and they get all their money from, they put all these smaller tournaments on TV, so they get all that TV money, so they kind of need to put something serious attached to that. So I get it, but yeah, so I overall I don't have a problem with the tournaments, and I actually like them.
Okay, your answer made sense to me because I'm not a big fan of it, automatic bids, because of you play 18 conference games, 18, 20 games, you win the regular season. That's a quote unquote marathon,
Right.
And then you stumble one time in the conference tournament and you were the best team except for one day.
Yeah.
And then in those smaller conferences, that's it. So, but money, I know money makes the world go round. So
Exactly.
I understand that too. I really do I'm curious how much those smaller conferences make from the tournaments because it really has to come from TV because
Right.
I don't believe attendance wise it's not very beneficial monetarily. But anyway.
Right.
How long have you, well, let's get into some other of your hats. How long have you been a sports writer and who have you, written for and where has your work been seen?
So I've been a sports writer probably about 10 plus years, maybe more. Because I started off just blogging and writing for small outlets, mostly about college basketball. And it was basically just like like a heart type thing, like just something I love to do. And then I got more serious into it when I linked up with Bill Rhoden, the legendary Bill Rhoden, who was at the Times for a long time.
Right.
So, and I got more serious about the writing. So I started to write, and that's probably about 7+ years ago. And then I started to write for CBS Sports. And then I wrote some for USA Today. And then I started writing about college basketball for ESPN, The Undefeated. So that's kind of been my niche. And most recently, I wrote a piece for Sports Illustrated, on a high school, girls basketball player named Jada Williams,
yes.
who was the first high school girls basketball player to sign a major NIL deal. So that was fun.
Where does the attorney stuff come in, man?
Well, in my past life, I have practiced various types of law, including, I dabbled in sports, in being a sports agent. Basketball wise, I placed a few guys overseas, so that I spent about a couple years doing that. And I still do. I still am practicing law. I have a couple entertainment and sports clients.
Okay.
So I still do that, and that has kind of become my side job.
That must be nice then, man.
Yeah.
That's your side job. So what advice would you give youngsters, young people who want to become sports writers?
Just write, just do it. It doesn't matter, at the beginning for sure, it doesn't matter, where you're writing, just make sure you're doing it and you're getting in, you're practicing and you're getting better. Whether it's blogging or smaller sites that give you that first chance. At the very beginning, I wouldn't even care so much about the money. But then, it's like any other profession. It's networking. It's, getting into contact with people who you feel like could give you good advice, becoming friends with people in the industry, like genuinely. So you know the industry, what other people are doing, where it's going. And, networking is key. And to me, it's just genuine, creating genuine relationships in the industry. And at the same time, showing that you're a hard worker and you're willing to write and also be versatile, in today's day and age, not just writing, but you want to, work on your craft as far as, speaking and being on TV, because the more versatile you are in today's day and age, the better chance you have of making it.
We're going to get back to on the court stuff in just a moment, but how did you meet Mr. Rhoden? Did he approach you? You approached him? Y'all had a mutual connect? How did that work out?
Yeah, no, we had a mutual connection. He and my father were friends. So it's kind of like we knew, we were like, he was friends of the family. And then when he saw that I had started to write and that kind of thing, he contacted me and we were going to try to do some joint projects, but all of a sudden he was offered a podcast opportunity and he kind of just brought me into that. It was kind of like happenstance. He kind of brought me into that. And then, that has just lasted, for years. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, he was a friend of the family, and then we kind of connected later on.
In the 10 years or so you've been writing, how much has technology changed?
I mean, it's constantly changing. So it's probably something I don't even realize because every year things change. Um, but things have definitely changed. Definitely, even with the pandemic, like now we're doing these interviews with Zoom. We never used to use this, but now you could tell now it's here to stay. So, things are constantly changing. More video has become much more important in terms of, as far as media goes. I remember it used to be frowned upon to take video like of interviews and stuff like that in the locker room, and
Yep.
now it's like 100% necessary. Now editors would tell you, no, we want the video. The audio is old school almost. So things have changed a lot, and I expect them to continue changing.
Now, I don't want to date Mr. Rhoden by asking this question. So if you mention it to him, I'm not coming from shade because I have so much respect for him. Have you had to help him learn some of the technology?
Yeah, definitely. But he's a quick learner, so it's just about presenting it like hey, here's what they're doing, and here's what people are starting to do now. Let's get on it, and he's always all for it. He wants to keep up with the newest and latest stuff. Like that's part of his personality. So it hasn't been hard, but definitely, like I said, for everybody, we've all had to adjust.
Yeah.
So if you want to, I mean, the fact that he's still writing and putting out serious content shows you that he's been willing to adapt, and more than willing. Like he's been, ready and willing to adapt.
And once again, I'm Kris Gardner of Houston Round Bar Review, speaking with Jamal Murphy, sports writer and attorney. Back on the court. Your 4 teams right now as of February 22nd to make it to the Final Four. The men's Final Four. Let me say that right there. The men's Final Four.
4 teams right now to make the Final Four. Okay, I love Gonzaga again. I think Gonzaga gets back. They're just so talented. They got McDonald's All-Americans coming in off the bench. They got McDonald's All-Americans that don't even play. And I think because they're out there in the West Coast Conference, and of course they're playing a little lesser competition, people kind of sleep on them a little bit. And they haven't won the big one yet, so people always bring that up. But I think once again this year they're the cream of the crop, so I think they'll be there. And then for me, the rest is a crapshoot, man. But yeah. I'll give you. For some reason, I was at a UCLA game last night. They were in the Final Four last year. They pretty much brought back their whole team. I know they started off slow. They've kind of been up and down, but that's kind of how Mick Cronin's teams are. They kind of get it together at the end. They don't look pretty doing it, but come tournament time, they're tough out. And I think UCLA will get back to the Final Four probably as being like a 2 or 3 seed. I'm going to go Auburn. I think Bruce Pearl gets it done. They're just a scary, talented team. They got Jabari Smith, the freshman. They got some good guards. They got Kessler in the middle, blocking about 5 shots a game. Mm-hmm. So they're tough. And then my 4th, I'm going to pick a real wild card. I'm going to say a wild card like Marquette. I'm going to say Marquette. I just talked about them. I just bigged them up. I'm going to say Marquette. They have the talent. They're the kind of team that nobody really wants to see. They're capable of pressing you. They play really, really, really hard, which I think surprises teams, at the start of games. So I think I'm going to go with those 4 squads. So I got a Big East. I got a SEC. I got a West Coast Conference. And what was
Pac-12.
And a Pac-12. Yep.
Okay. I'll toss mine out there because I'm probably going to change this tomorrow.
Thank you. I reserve the right. I reserve the right to change it up.
No question. I agree with you on Gonzaga. I like them. Auburn, I think. Yeah. I'm not picking Marquette, although I like your logic is sound with it. I don't want to pick two teams from the SEC, so I want to pick Kentucky. So, Kansas.
Okay.
And Purdue.
I like Purdue. I forgot about Purdue.
So yeah, see, that's the thing. While we're doing this on the top of our domes, you forget somebody. So, but
but that's what I mean. Like, and they're about this year, and we always say this. It gets more and more every year. I feel like, but this year, man, they're about 20 teams at least legitimately could get, maybe more. They can get to the Final Four, and there's probably about 10, 15 teams that could win it all. And all those teams that you mentioned are part of that too.
And no disrespect to the women's game, but if we shift gears and talk about 4 teams getting to the Final Four there, one of them for sure is South Carolina. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So there's less parity in women's basketball right now at the top for sure. Stanford's the ranked defending champ. Okay.
Right.
But South Carolina, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but for me, it's South Carolina than everybody else. But you want to give me a 4 for women's side too.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's South Carolina. You got to look Dawn Staley, the legend, one of the best coaches, period, in the game. She's probably like top 3, male or female in the game. To tell you the truth, like she's really just become an icon. So it's South Carolina. Of course, you still got UConn in the mix. You can't count them out. Stanford, like you mentioned. Arizona's tough again. They were in the Final Four last year. Mm-hmm. I know I'm forgetting. There's somebody that I was thinking about when you were mentioning them. I'm forgetting it now. But those teams, look really, really strong. Iowa, they got one of the best players in the game.
Clark, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Clark with them. So, the women's game, we can't sleep on it anymore.
Right.
Because there are, there's a lot of talent out there. So there are more teams that can compete and get to that Final Four level. Like we wouldn't have thought Arizona would have got there last year, for instance. So I think, you're going to see some upstart teams, but like you said, I mean, it's South Carolina's to lose. And Connecticut, of course, they get Paige Beckers back supposedly in the next, few weeks.
Right.
So, and they've gotten better, because they played without her for most of the season. So they're going to be scary too. Jamal,
you want to give me anything on the NBA, man? I didn't watch the NBA AllStar Game.
No.
I didn't. A friend of mine texted me about it, told me how Steph was lighting the world on fire. I just got tired of it, man. It became too much of a pickup game for me the last few years, so I just stopped watching it. So,
Yeah.
I hear you. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it, but I hear what you're saying because it was pretty bad. They just need to fast forward to the fourth quarter because at least they start playing in the fourth quarter. But before that, it's not even a pickup game. You're being generous. Like it's more like a layup line.
Yeah.
Like there's like absolutely, I don't even know the purpose of it really. So I totally hear where you're coming from. NBA wise, I mean, as far as the season goes, the real season, and we're about to pick back up on it. I think it's very exciting now. And it's there, especially in the Eastern Conference, you got so many teams. You had the Brooklyn Philly trade. So that adds excitement. You got Ben Simmons in Brooklyn. How will he look with Kevin Durant and Kyrie if he's ever on the court? Or we'll see.
Right.
Who knows? Right. Who knows with that? But they were able to pick up some guys like Seth Curry, Andre Drummond. They just picked up Dragic from the buyout market. So I think Brooklyn's looking really good. We'll see how Philly fares. I mean, I think Embiid alone, he's playing so well, and he's such a beast this year that he'll be able to take them pretty far in the playoffs. We'll see what Harden can contribute. I've been, I'm based in Brooklyn, so I cover the Nets. Mm-hmm. So I watched him closely, and Harden was just not that good this year, especially shooting percentage, and he just didn't look the same. Didn't seem to have that same athletic ability. I know people don't really know him for his athletic ability, but he always had it when he was in Houston. He always had that burst. He could get by guys. He could dunk on guys. Surprisingly, when you least expect it. I have seen very little of that this year. And again, it's coming in off the hamstring, but it's been about 3-4 months, I think into the season. So you would think that the hamstring would be okay by now. So we'll see. I just don't think he's the same guy. So I don't know how much he's going to help Philly, but he's better than what they had. They weren't getting anything. So it's still an upgrade. The Lakers are a mess.
Yes.
We all know that. I don't see any surprise comeback from them, in terms of getting into any kind of contention. I think out west, you gotta think it's between Phoenix, if Chris Paul comes back healthy, Phoenix and Golden State, and then upstart Memphis. You can't sleep on them.
Right.
So I think the NBA is exciting, man. There's a lot of, it's going to be exciting the rest of the regular season, and of course, when we get to the playoffs.
And just wrap up with that. Give me your team, your team from the East and your team from the West to get to the finals.
Wow. I'm going to go, the East is such a beast, man, but I'm going to go with Milwaukee. And then my wild card is the Nets.
Okay.
It's hard to pick the Nets because you haven't even seen the pieces together. But if they can put it together, I would go with the Nets. But the safe bet for me is Milwaukee right now. They've been there. They're a tougher team. They went through the fire last year. Whereas a guy, I think Drew Holiday is actually a better player this year than he was last year, and he was great towards the end of the playoffs. But I think, Drew used to have these shaky moments where, you're like, what is he doing? Or is he, just shaky moments. But I think you didn't really see that towards the end of the playoffs last year. He stepped up, and I haven't seen it at all in this regular season. So I think they're a better team. I think they'll turn it on these last couple of weeks of the regular seasons, and I think they'll be tough to beat in the East. And then in the West, I gotta go Golden State. I like what Phoenix is doing. I love Monty Williams. But the Chris Paul injury scares me. And Chris Paul's history of injuries scares me, and the history of just not being able to really get it completely done in the playoffs. I think they were a great regular season team because they've been taking every game seriously, but come playoff time, everybody takes every game seriously. Right. So it kind of closes the gap. So give me Golden State and Milwaukee in the final.
All right. I'll take the Bucks, and I'm going to take Phoenix, but I am leery of the injury to CP and his injury history as well. Right. So wrap up with you. How can folks find you, connect with you on social media?
Yeah, definitely. Find me and follow me on Twitter at Blacketologist. Also on Instagram at Blacketologist. Jamal Murphy, search the name. Look out for me at ESPN at The Undefeated, and also at Sports Illustrated. And that's about it. And also, of course, tune into Bros Pod with Bill Rhoden on Sports Podcast. Any kind of issues that need to be talked about, especially social justice and racial issues, we cover that. We make sure we cover that at all times. And also check out my newer podcast, the Up Next podcast, with my co-host Khalid Green, and we talk to major players in youth sports, whether it be big time organizers or coaches, or players themselves. Like we talked to Scoot Henderson, okay. Who's a G League star now. He'll probably be a top 5 pick next year, or in 2 years at the draft. We talked to him in high school. So we talked to a lot of kids who are doing big things in high school and major players in the AAU and the like.
Jamal Murphy, man, thank you very much for taking time to speak to me. Sports writer and attorney and a lot of other things as well, podcaster, and he's doing big things. Appreciate your time talking to me. I'm Kris Gardner of Houston Round Bar Review. Take care.
Thanks, Kris.